The Judgment and the Departure. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation stretched nearly a kilometer in diameter. Its crystalline dome revealed the stars beyond, those same stars that hundreds of species had come together to explore in peace. Today, the hall was filled with representatives from 47 member worlds. They sat in tiered circles, all facing the center platform where Ambassador Chen Wei stood alone. Chen was 59 years old. Her black hair, streaked with silver, was pulled back in a simple style. She wore the formal gray uniform of the Human Diplomatic Corps, with no decorations except a small pin bearing Earth's image. She had served the Federation for 23 years. She had negotiated mining rights that prevented wars. She had established medical exchange programs that saved millions. She believed in the Federation's mission with her whole heart. Now she stood accused of mass murder. High Chancellor Torvus of the Valkyrie Empire activated the central holographic display. Images materialized above the assembly floor. A human colony transport ship, the New Shanghai, hung in space. Then came the explosion. The ship broke apart in terrible silence. Bodies tumbled into the void. Debris scattered across thousands of kilometers. 8,400 human colonists perished in this tragedy, Torvus said. His voice carried across the vast chamber through translation devices. The Valkyrie were a reptilian species, tall and powerfully built, with scales that shifted from green to blue depending on their emotional state. Torvus's scales showed deep purple, the color of righteous anger. But this was no accident, he continued. Our investigation has proven that human military forces sabotaged their own colony ship. They murdered their own people to create a pretext for war. They wanted an excuse to seize the mineral-rich asteroid fields in Sector 447, which belonged to the Valkyrie Empire by ancient treaty right. Chen closed her eyes briefly. She had seen the real evidence. The New Shanghai had been destroyed by a chain reaction from unauthorized Valkyrie mining operations in the nearby asteroid field. The mining had destabilized the entire region. Valkyrie corporate interests had been operating illegally for months, ignoring all safety protocols and Federation regulations. When human engineers had detected the danger and warned the Valkyrie mining station, they were ignored. When the asteroid field began breaking apart, the debris had struck the New Shanghai before the ship could maneuver to safety. Human rescue teams had immediately responded, pulling survivors from the wreckage. 14 human rescue workers had died trying to save others. Chen had all the evidence. Sensor logs, communications records, testimony from the rescued colonists, and even intercepted messages from Valkyrie mining executives discussing how to cover up their illegal operations. Ambassador Chen, High Chancellor Torvus said, "You may now answer these charges." Chen stepped forward. "Honored Chancellor, representatives of the Federation, I request permission to present our evidence. We have complete sensor recordings from 3 independent sources showing the Valkyrie mining operations' role in this disaster. We have communications logs proving that human engineers warned Valkyrie operations about the instability. We have testimony from survivors, both human and Valkyrie workers from the mining station, who will confirm what truly happened." She paused. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. "We also have the names and service records of 14 human rescue personnel who gave their lives trying to save others after the explosion. They are heroes, not murderers. The truth is available for all who wish to see it." Councillor Drex of the Therian Confederacy rose from his seat. The Therians were insectoid, with multiple limbs and compound eyes that could see across many light spectrums. Drex's mandibles clicked together as he spoke. "The Valkyrie evidence is comprehensive. They have provided financial records showing human military preparations. They have intercepted communications suggesting human aggression. The pattern is clear. Ambassador Chen, your denials are noted, but the evidence against humanity is overwhelming." Chen felt something cold settle in her chest. She recognized the tone. The decision had been made before this hearing began. The evidence had been manufactured, the votes secured through backroom deals and political pressure. "I formally request a delay of 60 days to present our complete findings," Chen said. "This is our right under Federation Charter, Article 7. High Chancellor Torvus was quiet for a long moment. His scales shifted to a darker shade. "The suffering of the victims' families cannot wait. The threat humanity poses must be addressed immediately. I am calling for an immediate vote on sanctions." The vote took less than 5 minutes. 31 species voted in favor of sanctions against humanity. 8 voted against. The remaining 8 abstained, too frightened or too politically compromised to choose. "The Federation has reached its judgment," Torvus announced. "Humanity is found guilty of sabotage, murder, and conspiracy to wage aggressive war. The following actions will be implemented immediately. All human trade licenses are revoked. Human military forces must be reduced by 70% within 6 months. All human settlements beyond your home system must be abandoned. Reparations of 9 trillion credits will be paid to the Valkyrie Empire over 70 years. Humanity is hereby restricted to Earth and your immediate solar system until further review. Chen stood perfectly still as the judgment was read. Her face showed no emotion. Her hands did not shake. When the pronouncement ended, she bowed slightly to the assembly. The human government acknowledges the Federation's decision, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. We will comply with all requirements. We respectfully request a withdrawal period of 90 days to safely evacuate our citizens from Federation space. Granted, Torvus said. There was satisfaction in his voice. Chen turned and walked from the Grand Assembly Hall. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Behind her, some representatives began celebrating. Others sat quietly, troubled by what they had witnessed. A few looked away, unable to meet the eyes of their colleagues. In the observation gallery, Captain Sarah Martinez watched Ambassador Chen leave. Martinez commanded the Human Defense Fleet station near the Federation capital. She was 41 years old, with sharp eyes and the bearing of someone who had spent 20 years in military service. She caught Chen's eye for just a moment as the ambassador passed. No words were exchanged. None were needed. That evening, from her quarters on the diplomatic station, Chen sent an encrypted message to Earth. It contained only one sentence: the river has chosen its course. On Earth, in the headquarters of the Human Colonial Administration, the message was received and understood. Director James Okonkwo read it 3 times, then sat back in his chair and stared at the ceiling of his office. He was 67 years old, and he had dedicated his entire life to building bridges between humanity and the stars. Now those bridges would be dismantled. He opened a secure channel to every human settlement, every research station, every diplomatic post, every trade mission across the galaxy. The message was simple and clear. Withdrawal protocol dignity is now active. All personnel will return to human space within 90 days. Complete all contractual obligations. Settle all debts. Leave all research and resources that belong to others. Take nothing that is not yours. Show respect in all interactions. Depart in peace. Across the galaxy, humans began to leave. Dr. Amara Osei stood in her laboratory on the Draxian Medical Research Station. For 8 years, she had worked here, studying Draxian neurological conditions. The Draxians were a peaceful, scholarly species whose nervous systems were vulnerable to a degenerative disease that struck in middle age. Amara had developed a treatment that extended Draxian lifespans by an average of 30 years. Now she packed her personal belongings into a single case. Her research notes, her treatment protocols, her years of work, all of it remained on the station's database. She made copies of everything and organized it clearly so that Draxian doctors could continue the work. Her colleague, Dr. Ven, found her in the laboratory. Ven was Draxian, with pale blue skin and large, thoughtful eyes. He had worked alongside Amara for 6 years. "You are leaving," Ven said. It was not a question. "Yes," Amara replied. "The Federation's decision was wrong. Everyone knows this. Why do you accept it?" Amara looked at him with kind eyes. "We are not accepting it, Ven. We are simply removing ourselves from a system that does not value truth. Your people did not vote against us. You tried to help. We thank you for that. But we cannot stay where we are not wanted. We want you here," Ven said. His voice broke slightly. "Our patients need you. I need you. You are my friend." Amara put her hand on his shoulder. "You have all my research. You have been trained in all my techniques. You can continue this work. You are a brilliant doctor, Ven. You do not need me anymore." "That is not true," Ven whispered. But Amara had already turned away, gathering the last of her things. On the mining worlds of the Corvin Reach, human engineers shut down the atmospheric processors they had designed. They had spent 12 years building an infrastructure that allowed the Corvins to expand to new worlds. The processors were miracles of engineering, creating breathable atmospheres from toxic gases. Humans had shared this technology freely, asking for nothing except friendship. Now the engineers prepared detailed instruction manuals. They trained Corvin technicians in every system, every backup protocol, every emergency procedure. They worked 18-hour days to ensure the knowledge transfer was complete. When the last human engineer prepared to depart, a crowd of 10,000 Corvins gathered at the spaceport. They held signs thanking the humans. They sang traditional songs of farewell. Some of them wept. The chief engineer, Marcus Chen, stood before the crowd and spoke briefly. "You have been good friends to us. These systems are now yours. Care for them well. We leave you with our respect and our hope that your worlds will prosper." Then he boarded the transport and was gone. On the trade station of New Prosperity, human merchants closed their businesses. They settled every account, completed every contract, delivered every promised shipment. They took nothing that was owed and left nothing unpaid. Their reputation for honest dealing had made them the most trusted traders in the galaxy. Station Master Crix watched in disbelief as one business after another shut its doors. Crix was Thelian, a species of traders who valued profit above almost everything. But even Crix understood that some things mattered more than money. "This is madness," Crix said to the last departing human merchant, a woman named Jennifer Park. "Your businesses are profitable. Your customers are loyal. Why abandon everything you have built?" Jennifer looked at the station master with steady eyes. "Because staying where you are not trusted is worse than leaving. Because accepting injustice teaches the galaxy that injustice is acceptable. Because sometimes the right thing to do is simply to walk away." "But the Valkyrie lied," Crix protested. "Everyone knows they lied. In time, the truth will be proven, and you will be vindicated." "Perhaps," Jennifer said. "But we will not remain where we must constantly prove our innocence. We will not stay where our word is not valued. We will not be where we are not wanted." She boarded her ship and departed, leaving Crix standing alone in an empty marketplace. At the border between Federation space and human territory, Border Control Officer LYSS watched the exodus. LYSS was Verani, a species known for their careful observation and their long institutional memory. She had monitored this border crossing for 15 years, watching the constant flow of human ships traveling in both directions, bringing goods, knowledge, friendship, and hope to 100 worlds. Now they all went in one direction. Home. Thousands of ships passed through in perfect order. Families returning to Earth and Mars and the Luna colonies. Scientists closing their research outposts. Soldiers decommissioning bases. Teachers saying goodbye to students. Doctors treating their last patients. One ship paused briefly near the border station. Its captain sent a simple message: "Thank you for your service, Officer LYSS. May the stars light your path." Then it was gone. LYSS stood at her observation window for a long time, watching the empty space where the human ships had been. She felt something strange in her chest. It felt like the moment before a great storm, when the air grows heavy and still, and every creature knows to seek shelter. Something was coming. She was certain of it. The humans were not returning with weapons. They were not returning with threats or demands or ultimatums. They were not returning at all. And somehow, LYSS understood, that was infinitely worse. The last human ship crossed the border on the 87th day. Behind it, the human border stations activated their automated systems and went dark. No more communications. No more trade negotiations. No more cultural exchanges. The humans had built a wall of silence around their space. And the galaxy was about to learn what they had lost. The reckoning. 18 months had passed since the last human ship crossed the border into their sealed territory. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The first crisis began on the Draxian homeworld. Dr. Venn stood in the medical research center that Dr. Amara Osei had once directed. Around him, 12 Draxian patients lay in treatment pods, their neural pathways deteriorating despite everything Venn and his team tried. The disease that Amara had successfully treated for 8 years was returning with terrible efficiency. "The treatment protocol is not working," his assistant, Dr. Kell, said quietly. "We are following her instructions exactly, but the results are not the same." Venn stared at the equipment that Amara had left behind. The machines were functioning perfectly. The medication formulas were precise. The procedures were documented in exhaustive detail. Everything was exactly as it should be. Except the patients were dying. "There is something missing," Venn said. "Some element of her technique that was not captured in the documentation. Some understanding that came from her years of experience, her intuition, her knowledge of human medical science that we do not possess." Kell's large eyes filled with sorrow. "Then what do we do?" Venn had no answer. Within 3 months, the disease had claimed 400 Draxian lives. Within 6 months, that number had risen to 3,000. The Draxian government sent desperate requests to the Federation, asking for help, asking for human medical experts to return, willing to pay any price. The Federation sent Valkyrie doctors. The Valkyrie did their best, but they did not understand Draxian neurology. They had never studied the disease. Their treatments were ineffective, sometimes making things worse. The plague spread to 4 Draxian colony worlds. By the end of the first year, 22,000 Draxians had died. On the mining worlds of the Corvin Reach, the atmospheric processors began failing. Chief Technician Vor stood in the main control center, watching warning indicators flash across multiple displays. Processor 7 had shut down completely. Processors 3 and 11 were operating at diminished capacity. The atmosphere on the colony world of New Corvin was becoming toxic again. Run the diagnostic protocol, Vor commanded his team. Execute the emergency procedures that the humans taught us. His technicians worked frantically, following every instruction, checking every system. But the problems were complex, cascading failures that interacted in ways the Corvins did not fully understand. Marcus Chen and his team had spent 12 years building these systems. They understood every component, every interaction, every potential failure mode. They could diagnose problems by sound alone, recognizing the subtle changes in equipment performance that indicated developing issues. The Corvins had been trained in the procedures, but they did not have that deep, intuitive understanding. They could follow the manuals, but they could not improvise solutions to unexpected problems. We need the human engineers, Vor said finally. We cannot maintain these systems without them. The Corvin government sent urgent messages to the Federation. They explained that without atmospheric processing, 3 colony worlds would become uninhabitable within months. 2 million Corvins would need to be evacuated. Decades of colonial development would be lost. The Federation promised to send help. But no other species possessed atmospheric processing technology as advanced as humanity's. The assistance that arrived was inadequate. The first Corvin colony was evacuated 4 months later. The people watched from evacuation ships as their cities disappeared beneath toxic clouds. Everything they had built was abandoned to the poisoned air. On the trade station of New Prosperity, Station Master Crix watched his economic empire collapse. Without human intermediaries, trade between hostile species became impossible. The humans had possessed a unique ability to mediate disputes, to find compromises that satisfied all parties, to build trust where none existed. They had been neutral, fair, and scrupulously honest. Other species tried to fill the role. But the Thelians favored their own kind. The Velkari used their power to intimidate. The Corvins lacked the diplomatic skill. Trust evaporated. Old hatreds resurfaced. The Miran and the Vex, 2 species with a history of conflict, had maintained peaceful trade for 20 years thanks to human mediation. Now, a disputed cargo shipment escalated into accusations of theft. Accusations became threats. Threats became violence. The first skirmish happened in the 3rd month after human withdrawal. 3 ships destroyed, 200 dead. By the 6th month, both species had mobilized military fleets. By the 9th month, full-scale war had erupted across the border region. 4 star systems became battlegrounds. 30,000 casualties in the first major engagement. Crix sent desperate messages to both sides, begging for negotiation. But without trusted mediators, neither side would agree to talks. Each side demanded that the other surrender completely. Neither would compromise. The war spread. Supply routes collapsed. Trade stations were destroyed. The economic network that had sustained a dozen species began to fragment. Crix's station, once bustling with merchants from 40 worlds, now hosted only a handful of desperate traders dealing in weapons and survival supplies. We need the humans back, Crix said to his empty office. Without them, we are destroying ourselves. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation, High Chancellor Torvus faced questions he could no longer answer. Representative Ven of Draxia spoke with barely controlled anger. 22,000 of my people are dead. The humans had the knowledge to save them. You drove the humans away based on lies. When will you take responsibility for this? Torvus's scales shifted to a sickly yellow-green. We are doing everything possible. Velkari medical teams are working on Draxia. We have allocated emergency funding. Your medical teams are useless. Ven shouted. They do not understand the disease. They do not have the training. My people are dying while you offer excuses. Representative Core of the Corvin Reach stood next. 3 of our colony worlds have been abandoned. 2 million of my people are refugees in their own space. The atmospheric systems the humans built are failing, and we cannot repair them. We were told that the Federation would provide equivalent support. Where is it? We are working to develop, Torvus began. You have had 18 months, Core interrupted. How much longer must my people suffer? Ambassador Trell of the Miran Unity stepped forward. Her voice was cold with fury. The Miran and Vex are at war. 50,000 have died in 3 months. This war exists because humans are not here to mediate. They maintain peace for 20 years. Without them, we return to killing each other within months. This is the Federation's legacy. Torvus looked around the chamber. Once it had held representatives from 47 species. Now barely 30 remained. The others had withdrawn from the Federation, unwilling to be associated with what had been done. We will contact the humans, Torvus said. We will explain the situation. Surely they will help. Have you not been trying to contact them for a year? Representative Ven asked. Have they answered even once? Silence filled the chamber. The answer was known to everyone. The humans had sealed their borders completely. All messages sent to human space went unanswered. Human ships patrolled the border with cold efficiency, turning back any vessel that attempted to cross. They did not threaten. They did not negotiate. They simply enforced their isolation with absolute consistency. The Federation had tried sending diplomatic envoys. The ships were stopped at the border, scanned thoroughly, and sent back without any communication beyond a simple automated message: "Human space is closed. Please respect our boundaries." They had tried sending messages explaining the humanitarian crises. No response. They had tried sending formal apologies. No response. They had tried sending offers of negotiation, compensation, anything that might open a dialogue. No response. The humans had built a wall of silence, and nothing the Federation did could breach it. In a small office in the Federation's communication center, journalist Kira worked alone. Kira was Virani, the same species as Border Control Officer LYSS. Like all Virani, she had an excellent memory and an instinct for patterns that others missed. For 18 months, she had been investigating the original incident. The destruction of the human colony ship New Shanghai. The accusations against humanity. The evidence that had convinced the Federation to issue sanctions. She had obtained the original sensor logs from multiple sources. She had interviewed survivors. She had tracked down Valkyrie mining executives and corporate records. She had followed the money, the communications, the cover-up. Now she had the truth. Kira activated the transmission system and sent her report to every news service in the Federation simultaneously. Within hours, billions of beings across the galaxy were seeing what she had uncovered. The footage showed the truth without embellishment. The illegal Valkyrie mining operation in Sector 447. The repeated safety violations. The warnings sent by human engineers, all ignored. The destabilization of the asteroid field. The debris field that destroyed the New Shanghai. And then the rescue operation. Human ships arriving within minutes. Human rescue workers boarding the shattered wreckage in emergency suits, pulling survivors from depressurizing compartments. Working in conditions that were killing them, staying until the very end. 14 human rescue workers died saving others. Their names appeared on the screen, one by one. Their ages, their families, their service records. Heroes who gave everything for strangers. The report showed the intercepted communications between Valkyrie mining executives discussing how to hide their illegal operations. It showed the fabricated evidence that blamed humans for the disaster. It showed the financial transactions that had secured votes in the Federation Assembly. It showed High Chancellor Torvus receiving payments from Valkyrie corporate interests 2 weeks before the trial. The galaxy watched in horror as the truth unfolded. On Draxia, riots erupted. The people who had lost family members to the medical crisis now understood that the humans who could have saved them had been driven away by lies. They burned Valkyrie trade centers. They demanded justice. On the Corvan worlds, the government formally withdrew from the Federation. "We will not be part of an organization built on corruption and falsehood," their representative announced. The Miran and Vex, still at war, both paused their fighting long enough to issue joint condemnations of the Valkyrie and the Federation leadership. Across 30 worlds, the people demanded answers. They demanded accountability. They demanded that the humans be brought back. In the Grand Assembly Hall, High Chancellor Torvus faced a chamber filled with rage. His scales had turned completely gray, the color of Valkyrie defeat and shame. "I resign my position," he said quietly. "I accept responsibility for the injustice done to humanity and for the consequences of my actions." Representative Venn stood. "Resignation is not enough. You must stand trial for corruption, for fabricating evidence, for causing deaths through your deception." Around the chamber, representatives nodded in agreement. Torvus was arrested that same day. He did not resist. As security officers led him away, he spoke one final time. "I did what I believed was necessary. The humans were growing too influential. Too many species depended on them. I thought I was protecting the Federation's balance of power. Instead," Representative Venn said coldly, "you destroyed it." The Federation convened an emergency session to address the crisis. A new chancellor was elected, a Virani named Solis who had a reputation for integrity. Chancellor Solis's first act was to formally apologize to humanity. The apology was broadcast across the galaxy, transmitted to human space on all channels. "We have committed a grave injustice against humanity," Solis said. "We allowed prejudice and political manipulation to override truth and justice. We accused innocent people of terrible crimes. We drove away friends who had given us nothing but help and cooperation. The suffering now afflicting the galaxy is a direct result of our failure. We ask humanity to forgive us. We ask you to return. We need your help. The message was sent to human space. Like all previous messages, it received no response. Months passed. The crises deepened. The Draxian death toll reached 40,000. More Corvan colonies were evacuated. The Miran-Vex war expanded. Economic collapse spread across a dozen systems. The Federation sent delegations to the human border. They came with offers of compensation, trade agreements, technology exchanges, anything that might convince humanity to return. Border Control Officer LYSS, now promoted to Regional Commander, watched another Federation delegation arrive at her station. It was the fifth such delegation in 3 months. The human patrol ship, a sleek vessel with no visible weapons but radiating quiet power, intercepted the delegation's ship with perfect precision. "This is Human Border Control," came the automated message. "Human space is closed. Please respect our boundaries." The delegation's spokesperson, a Draxian diplomat, transmitted an urgent message. "We are dying. Thousands of my people have perished from a plague that humans can cure. We beg you to send medical assistance. We will pay any price. We will offer any concession. Please, in the name of mercy, help us." For a long moment, there was no response. Then the automated message repeated, "Human space is closed. Please respect our boundaries." The human patrol ship escorted the delegation back across the border with mechanical efficiency, then returned to its patrol route. LYSS watched the Federation ship depart. She understood what was happening. The humans were not refusing out of cruelty. They were teaching a lesson that the galaxy desperately needed to learn. Trust cannot be compelled. Cooperation cannot be demanded. Help cannot be taken for granted. The humans had given freely for decades, asking nothing except friendship and basic respect. The Federation had responded with false accusations and unjust punishment. Now the galaxy was learning what it meant to live without the support it had dismissed so easily. 9 months after Chancellor Solis's apology, a single message came from human space. It was not addressed to the Federation government. It was broadcast openly to all species, all worlds, all beings who wished to hear it. Ambassador Chenwei appeared on screens across the galaxy. She looked older than she had at the trial. Her hair was entirely silver now. But her eyes were clear and her voice was steady. "We have heard your messages," she said. "We have watched the suffering spreading across the galaxy. We have seen the truth finally revealed. We take no pleasure in your pain. We never wanted revenge. We simply wanted to be treated with basic honesty and respect." She paused. The Federation asked why we do not return. The answer is simple. We cannot return to a relationship built on lies. We cannot help those who falsely accused us 1 year and beg for assistance the next. We cannot trust those who destroyed trust so completely. Another pause. The galaxy held its breath. "But we are willing to start again. Not as we were, but as something new. Not within the Federation, but beside it. Any species that wishes to establish independent, honest relations with humanity may do so. We will negotiate individual treaties based on mutual respect and transparency. We will help where help is genuinely wanted and genuinely valued. But we will never again allow ourselves to be taken for granted." The message ended. Within days, 12 species had sent formal requests to begin treaty negotiations with humanity. Within weeks, that number had reached 27. The Federation itself remained silent. The organization that had once united dozens of worlds was fracturing, its authority broken by the truth of its own injustice. At the human border, Border Control Officer LYSS watched as the first non-Federation diplomatic ship was granted permission to cross into human space. It carried the Draxian delegation, finally going where they needed to go. Behind it, more ships waited. Each one carried representatives of species who had learned the hardest lesson, that trust, once broken, must be rebuilt from nothing. That help freely given is a gift, not a right. That silence can speak louder than any accusation. The humans had walked away in silence. And in that silence, the galaxy had finally learned to listen.